We're good. So we're hanging with Drew Parker. I'm really excited to talk to you for a number of different reasons, but I obviously want to start with While You're Gone, which is the single and of course the EP. You've got to be on cloud nine. You've written hits for other people before, but this is your stuff, your voice, your message. Talk to me about the difference between those two and how geeked you are to have this out.
Man, it's insane. I'm super thankful for all the little success that I've had as a songwriter, but my main goal, my entire goal, my dream, my real dream was for myself as an artist to stand on stage and hear fans sing back the songs that I sang. And to watch that come to fruition has been absolutely incredible. And I'm so thankful, like for the fans to really fall in love with my music that I'm putting out as an artist has been special. And that's all I've ever wanted to do.
So I want to call out a couple of songs on the EP. There's one called I Was Lying, and then the other one is House Band, which is weird because it has this thing before it that's called the studio chat. And I want to start with I Was Lying because as I'm listening to the EP, I was like, whoa, that's a killer tune. And the writing on that's incredible. Walk me through that song and kind of where that came from in your head.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I was headed in to write one morning, and I was writing with Adam Craig, who's one of my favorite co-writers in town. And I had this idea in my phone. This idea came to me on the way to the write, and I sat down, talked to him about it, and we wrote it, in a few hours. And that was always one of my most favorite songs because I found early on that my passion was singing, and that's where like my true passion for music came about was just being on stage and singing. And that was one that was really you kind of had to get with it to like sing. Like it's really
Yeah.
hard song to sing. But also it had the clever, wordplay with it, which is I feel like was done a lot in the songs of the music that I grew up on, and which is kind of where I draw from that kind of um, back when I was a kid, the nostalgic feeling of those songs that I listened to growing up, and try to do that, incorporate that into those songs. So that was one that was very special, and I feel like I checked all the boxes for what a Drew Parker song is like, and that's one of those for me.
You mention it and it's true. As I'm listening to it, I'm like, man, this has got like 90s country vibes to it. It sounds like a Tracy Lawrence album to me. Like just the sound of it, the songwriting, the storytelling, it's really nostalgic. And I, for one, I dig that. Talk to me about House Band and the studio chat before it and why you decided to include that on there.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about um, doing this song in particular, there was this song was always special to me. This was a song I moved to Nashville almost 6 years ago, and I had this idea in my phone the day that I moved to
Wow.
Nashville, and I knew that it was a special song. I had the idea completely mapped out in my head. I knew how I wanted to go, but I was always so scared to write this song because I didn't want to mess it up. It was I held the idea on a pedestal and was like, man, if one day I can pull this song on off, I know that fans are gonna love it because I want it to come from a very genuine and honest place, and I want to be in the right place at the right time to write this song. And the day came about. I wrote this song with my friends Wyatt McCubbin and Dustin Huff, and man, it goes back to that nostalgic feeling of the songs that I grew up on. And this was one of those. Like my all time favorite country song is Miami, Miami by Keith Whitley. And this song, I was like, I've heard the thing of the question asked of like, man, what's the saddest country song ever? You know what
Right.
I mean? Like that question. And I'm like, well, I kind of want to write the saddest country song ever. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like for me, this is the saddest song I've ever written. And it goes back to those songs that I grew up on and what they meant to me. And I just kind of wanted to do that. And when we talked about recording it, the EP, I wanted to put this song on there so bad. And I was like, man, what's the most genuine way? And I was like, I think for it to just let it happen. Like, what's
Yeah.
the most genuine way for this song to fall into the EP? And so um, we talked about it, and I just wanted it to happen naturally. And so Phil Billy, my producer, walked in and he was like, hey, let's do that house band song. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so when I think he got the engineer to start rolling when he like came in there to do
Yeah.
that. And I was like, when I heard all of it, I was like, okay, this is how this has to happen. Like this is how I envision this
Yeah.
happening so naturally. Thank God we recorded that And we just separated it as an individual track on the EP. But very special. I love that song, and I love how real and how raw it came out.
And it really comes across, man, because as I'm listening to it, I'm in the honky tonk, I'm in the bar, and I can see all the people you describe, and I can feel. I mean, it's one of those. It's like Midnight in Montgomery, Alan Jackson, which is phenomenal
Oh
song.
yeah,
But as you listen to it and you hear the steel guitar and you hear his words, like you see everything happening, and that's an incredible thing to be able to do. So props to you. And then
thank you so much.
sticking with you, of course, sticking with the songwriting thing. One of my actually, you know what? I'm probably gonna my favorite Luke Combs song ever is Lonely One. And it's not a song that
Wow.
got released, but we play it on repeat here at the house because it's such a phenomenal song. And that's a song that you wrote, man. Are there any songs, there has to be, that you sit back and you go, damn, wish I would have held that one for me?
Oh man, there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch
I
of
bet.
them. I mean, but at the time, I think for me, thank you for saying that about "Lonely One."
Great song.
That's the first song me and Luke ever wrote together. Um, I wrote that before I ever moved to Nashville. I was still
Wow.
driving back and forth, like trying to figure out is this what I'm gonna chase after? Do I really want this bad enough? And I realized that that's what I really wanted. So I appreciate you saying that. But there's a lot of songs, man, that I wish I still had. Like, but at the time, I also think it's very smart for new artists and up and coming artists in Nashville or wherever you are to make very smart decisions. And one of those some of those decisions for me was letting these songs that I love so much go and be sung by someone with a much bigger voice than myself at the time.
Right.
And Lonely One was one of those songs. I mean, Luke, he was taking off when we wrote that, and it was like I knew that when we wrote that, that was gonna be a Luke Combs song. Like, the probably the biggest one is "Homemade" by Jake Owen.
Great song.
Um, that's I mean, that is everything that I could ever want to say as a songwriter, as an
Yeah.
artist. We wrote that song 2.5 years ago, long before I ever even knew I was gonna have a record deal and go to radio with my own music. And Jake, being an artist that I grew up listening to in high school, I mean, he had a song out when I was my senior year of high school that was my walk up song for the baseball team my senior year. So like, I'm a huge Jake Owen fan.
Yeah.
So when he heard that song and it was like, man, he wants to cut this, I was like, absolutely. Like, I think it's the smartest thing for me to let my music as a songwriter get out there to the masses and use a guy like Jake Owen with a bigger voice on country radio and that kind of thing than myself. And I think that's one of the best decisions I ever made. But don't think that I don't wish I still had that song in my back pocket for
Well, the
sure.
cool thing is obviously is that you can still play the song. And I bet when you do in front of a crowd, they kind of all go, oh, damn. Because I remember seeing Phil Vassar, right? And Phil
Yep.
Vassar's written everything under the sun. And you see a Phil Vassar show and you're like, oh, wait a minute. He wrote that and Colin Ray. And like, so the
Yeah.
faces probably have to be fantastic for you to see them in the crowd.
It's absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It's like it's validation for you as an artist as you're standing on stage as a new artist, and you go, "Hey, I wrote this song. It's my first number one. It was recorded by Jake Owen. It's called Homemade." And then they're like, "Whoa!" And then they sing every word of it with
Yeah.
you, and I'm like, "Man, this is incredible!" And it's very special to have that connection with the fans that they don't even realize that they are a fan of something that you've already created.
Yeah, that's incredible. So as I'm reading about you, Drew, I find out that you've been singing since you were a kid. And then coming up to 18 years old, you do this like open mic night. They tell you to come back with a whole band. And then, I mean, obviously you did really well. Then you decide to go to college and kind of do the thing that normal people do. And so, and so what happened from that moment from saying, all right, I'm going to do college to then saying, no, I'm getting out of here. Talk to me about that and kind of the moment in your mind where you said, I can't do this.
I think for me, it was the realization of I did not want to wake up in 15, 20 years and say, man, what if I had done this? What if I had really gone after what I truly love with my entire heart? What would I think if I don't go do it? And I could not live with myself knowing that I may think that one day.
Yeah.
And so I was playing shows there in my hometown, and there was this promoter out of Georgia who put me on to open a show for Luke Combs almost 7 years ago now. And Luke had just moved to Nashville, and he was like, man, you should come up. We just hit it off. We were immediately friends, and he was like, you should come to Nashville. Let's write songs together. And so I started doing that. That's when we wrote Lonely One,
Yep.
and that's when I was like, okay, I can do this. I can friggin' do this. Thank God for my college education because it did allow me to find a job in Nashville that helped me pay rent
Yep.
in that time. I mean, dude, um, there's this funny story. I had my first number one, quit my job, and had my first baby in a matter of 36 hours.
Good God, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
insane. But, I mean, I'm super thankful for that education that I got. And it allowed me to write songs during the day and go work at a hospital at night and just help me pay my rent and not be like stressed out and allow me to keep my head clear where I could write the best songs that I could write.
I love it. As I'm scrolling through your socials and whatnot, I'm seeing you're singing with Randy Travis, digging up bones. I'm seeing you on stage with Willie Nelson. Like, as a fan of country music, obviously your mind has to be blown by all of this. What is the one moment? You got to pick one. What's the one moment for you that as you have like this out of body experience where you're like, am I really with Willie Nelson right now? Like, what is it for you? Which one?
I think Willie Nelson. I
Yeah.
think walking on stage and hearing Willie Nelson say, y'all give it up for Drew Parker tonight was just like, did
Wow.
Willie Nelson really just say my name?
Right.
And now we're singing Will the Circle Be Unbroken together. Like, is this really happening? Like, and I was for a second I was wondering if I was just inhaling something backstage that made me think
Could
that,
be. Yeah.
or if I was really having this experience. But man, it was that for me. Definitely playing with Willie Nelson.
I got to ask you about the line that stands out in While You're Gone, the one that everyone talks about, and there's t-shirts and everything on it. And that's I'll just be kicking it with the BP PBR. Where did this come from? Because that line, it's a phenomenal line. It really is.
Well, thanks. So I wrote this song while you're going with my friend Jameson Rogers, who is one of my favorite people, one of my favorite co-writers in town. And I don't know exactly where this idea came from. I don't know whose idea it was. One of us said PBR, and like I'm big on phrasing in my song. Like I love filling up space in a song. So it was like it just phrased. It was like I'll just be kicking it with this PBR, and I'm like, well, in that space we need something. And so I don't know which one of us said it, but one of us said PBR, and the other one said, what if it's a BP PBR?
Yeah.
And when it was said, we both looked at each other and was like, we're geniuses, and this is awesome.
It
So
is genius, man. It's such a killer line. It really is. Genuinely.
thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I want to do some quick fire questions, and then I know you got
Yeah.
other stuff to do today. Number one, who was your first ever celebrity crush?
Ooh, Bell.
You just froze up on me. Say it again.
Oh, sorry. Kelly Kapowski from Saved by the Bell.
It's a great one. She was even in the TROUBLE music video. You remember that?
Yes, absolutely. Love it.
Number two, aliens come down to Earth. You get to play them one 90s country song. What are you playing them? Don't make them mad.
Let's go Boot, Scoot, and Boogie, Brooks and Dunn.
That's a winner every time. Number three, what's the number one thing you do that annoys your wife? And you could admit it.
Oh, probably like don't put the toilet paper on the right side of the thing. Like
she wants it over, or she wants it under?
She wants over, and I'm always an under guy.
I think that's a guy thing because I do the under thing as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Last one, number four. If you could swap wardrobe with any celebrity, who would it be and why?
John Wayne.
Great answer.
I mean, although we have similar wardrobe, I just don't carry the 6-shooter on my side.
You could.
Probably that.
I love it. Drew Parker, man, it's so good to talk to you. We're going to play While You're Gone. I'm a big fan, man, both in your writing and in the EP as well. I can't wait to see you live real soon, man. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, yeah, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll talk soon, man.
All right,
Bye.
sounds good. See you.